Welcome to the Stretch to Go podcast. My name is Ian Ray, your host, and today I have Tom Morrison. He is the founder of the Simplistic Mobility Method. You might have seen him on Instagram, Facebook for his quirky ways, but very effective modality that he helps people get them out of pain, help them to feel better, move freely. Tom, welcome to the Stretch to Go podcast.
Thanks so much for having me. Good to be here.
Yes, sir. So I know you're from Northern Ireland. Your background's in martial arts. You're a personal trainer, CrossFit, British weightlifting, powerlifting coach. Also certified kettlebells, FRC mobility specialist, pain-free performance specialist. You have a lot. You've done a lot in your life. Where did that all come from? I mean, what was your beginnings, like, especially getting into like fitness and the mobility work?
Oh yeah, I was quite different. So a lot of people kind of in our space is like, oh, I've done it all my life. It's always been my passion to be fit and everything like that. For me though, I just had no interest in training or fitness whatsoever. So it wasn't until I was in my mid-20s before I put on a lot of weight and my friends were kind of making fun of me. So I was like, well, fine then, I'll join a gym, and that was kind of the reason I started. There was no passion behind it whatsoever, but a few months in, I decided to pick up martial arts, and I was like, this is cool. I could be like someone from the movies. This is amazing. And I went from someone that had no interest in training whatsoever, never wanted to train at all, to doing 6 days a week, multiple hours per day. So I would have trained first thing in the morning for like 2 hours, and then in the evenings I would have got to the martial arts gym at 6, and you wouldn't have had me out of there until 10 o'clock at night, and like pretty
Oh,
much every day. So I found this entire new lease on life. So for me, before that, I just liked to drink and smoke. That was just me. That was, live for partying kind of thing, and playing music. But then I just had this complete switch of like, here, I actually feel healthy. I'm not sore all the time. This is amazing. And I kind of got a good year out of that. And
mm-hmm.
then my body started breaking down. I started getting injured all the time. And it was like, what am I doing wrong here? And unbeknown to me, my flexibility was terrible. My stability was terrible. And I had very poor movement. So those years of never, ever, ever training, I had zero coordination, zero strength or stability at all. And I was just tight as anything. So yeah, I got away with it my first year. And like, I lost weight. I had a six pack. I looked pretty good. And, like technically with the martial arts and stuff, I was quite a good fighter and stuff. But I
Mm-hmm.
was just injured constantly, and it kind of like really got me down. And it kind of started me on the mobility route, of trying to figure out, what you should do and what you shouldn't do, and how important stretching and stuff actually is. So that's kind of how I went the mobility route initially.
Cool. So basically, life happened and it changed you to basically focus on your health and like,
Mm.
especially doing the things that you love to do, which is like martial arts. Because I know for a fact, I mean, a lot of people who are, getting into health and fitness, they probably do get injured or they're not doing proper mechanics. And I guess in your background, with all these different credentials, which one has shaped you into basically being the type of trainer that you are and the coach? Do you think one specific modality, or just do you incorporate a lot of these different, certifications and learnings that you have?
Everything is useful, and I think kind of the more things that you do, the faster you are at getting through your own toolbox, I think. So the biggest things that I ever learned from was actually my own injuries. So like there was a first period of like picking up little injuries, like I tore meniscus in my knee and I hurt my shoulder a bit, and my neck was sore here and there. But it wasn't until I really injured my back really badly that I was like, oh, here, hang on, something's not right. And you really, if you got disc injuries, you actually learn, yes, the body is connected. So you can hear that phrase a million times. The body's all
Mm-hmm.
connected. You do not understand that until you have a major disc injury, and you can't even
Mm-hmm.
move your pinky finger without your lower back hurting. So it was really that, I was for giving up coaching completely. So there was like this first level of like, I was just someone that was always getting injured. Ha ha ha, oh, you're getting old. I was like in my late 20s, old. Um, and then I got injured. And there's a big difference between the two. So like now I couldn't walk. Now I couldn't do anything. And that's the biggest thing. The big mission behind what I do and why I'm trying to reach so many people and help so many people is because I was incapable of being a human. Now I couldn't walk. I couldn't lie down. I couldn't sit up. I was going to have to give up coaching. Who's going to listen to a weightlifting or powerlifting coach if they can't walk? You know what I mean? It wasn't a good idea. So yeah, that's what really, really set me into things, of learning more about mobility. A lot of the stuff I used came from martial arts, like forms, and a big thing. MMA is so popular now, but it's just like the
Mm-hmm.
martial part. there's no real art anymore. So like traditional martial arts, if anyone can ever start a traditional martial art, I really recommend it because there is so much golden info within forms. Like they're to reset your body from fighting. And the problem is now that
Mm.
everyone just wants to be a cage fighter, so they're just beating the bells out of each other, but not doing any of the corrective forms or anything, you know. So yeah, a lot of stuff came from martial arts and like Muay Thai teaching and stuff, you know. I went through a period of like learning like floor massage and stuff from the Thai
Huh.
as well. And some of the most useful things I really came across was yes, the forms of martial arts. And when you really get into the nitty gritty of them, it's like, where's your arm? Where's your elbow? Where's your shoulder? Why is it there? What's it doing there? What are you pressing with? What muscles are you using? You know, and there's a great teacher that taught me a lot of praying mantis stuff. He was really into kinesiology. Picked up a lot of
Hmm.
stuff from him as well, like muscle testing and stuff. And then that really led me down the path of like whenever I wanted to start getting better with body weight stuff. So I couldn't lift weights for a while when my back was extremely bad. So I started to do gymnastics. So I went and found an old gymnastic coach in his late 50s, and I was like, this guy is incredible. He knew so much about the body and how it should move, and you know, and the great thing about gymnasts is they have no qualms at all about saying you are weak. Don't even bother trying to do that until you can do this. They don't beat around the bush at all. So that was my kind of like big wake up moment of like I was trying to do a bunch of stuff that was just far too advanced for me, and that's why I kept getting hurt, you know. And it's just, you know, especially now these days, you see something on Instagram, you're like, oh, that's cool, I'm going to try it, and it's like, yeah, you're not going to do the 10 years of work the guy did before he did it, you know. So um yeah, so I always try and do at least 2 courses a year, and there's never been something I've done that I haven't taken something away from. You know, even if it's stuff that I've already seen before. If I'm on a
Hmm.
course, it's like the way the instructor maybe explains it slightly differently or something. You know, because the more people you work with, the more you start to realize that it doesn't matter how much stuff you know if you can't communicate in the right way to how that person needs to hear something, then you're pretty useless. You know, you have to remember if you work with people, you've got to be good at understanding people and being empathetic and, you know,
Hmm.
understanding their struggles and how they're currently feeling. You know, like I am a different person when I am in pain. Like I am very grumpy. I do not want to do anything, and I'm very angry if I'm in pain. Like I'm a totally different person than how I am at the moment. And so you have to remember, like sometimes you're working with someone, like they are agitated, they're, you know, they feel like their body's letting them down, you know, and that's that feeling that I hate and I never want anyone to feel for any long period of time. It's just feeling useless, just feeling like you cannot do stuff that, you know, is just like supposed to be normal daily life. You know, like making yourself a
Hmm.
cup of coffee shouldn't hurt you. You know, lifting your kids shouldn't hurt you. You know, things like that. You know, they're it just made me realize, you know, as much as I love CrossFit and coaching weightlifting and stuff like that, there it's like, no, we train to stay strong so we can enjoy our lives, and that's the most important thing.
Yeah. No, that's so true. You're mentioning about how like the active daily living things. I think that's kind of what most people, especially when they're getting older, 60, 70, like they want to be
Mm-hmm.
able to do those things so that
Mm-hmm.
they're pain free and they don't have to, go to rehab. I mean, and that's so I think like even that I don't know, baby boomers or the geriatric age, they are sometimes being forgotten. And I started off in my journey with this stretch therapy, working with geriatric people, and
Mm-hmm.
I just saw how happy they were and freeing just because they were able to feel some relief and tension
Yeah.
from joints that have been stuck for so long, or just being able to, like I said, tie their shoe. Like those simple
Yeah.
things I think people take for granted once they get
Mm-hmm.
older. But yeah, it's great that I love how you also are talking about like the martial arts. I personally have not done martial arts, but it's been around for so many centuries, right? And you could
Yeah,
probably
it's
tell
it's
me,
so funny. There's some things that I'll post every now and again that have been around for centuries, and
uh
people come on and say that's dangerous. My physiotherapist would never let me do that, and all this here kind of stuff. And it's like this has been around for a very long time. You know, the people have been doing this way before a lot of stuff even existed. You know, and
huh.
like if you try and find an old martial artist that's been doing traditional martial arts for years, like you'll never see anyone that moves like it, you know, and their posture's amazing and they're so incredibly strong, like in their 70s, they're able to throw 20-year-olds about and stuff, you know. So that's I kind of like gravitated towards that because I was like, I want to be like that when I'm older. That's what I want to be, you know. So yeah.
That's cool. So I guess what part of the martial arts did you do? Did you do kung fu, tai chi? Did you do karate
Wing
or?
Wing Chun was the big one for me. That
Oh.
was the big reset one for me,
Mm-hmm.
for learning about kinesiology and stuff as well. You know, the sticking hands, fighting stuff that they do and all. You know, it's not you can't really see why you would use it in a fight, but see for understanding how the body moves and weaknesses and muscles and stuff like that as well. So like the weird thing about martial arts is you're trying to understand your own body as well as somebody else's, so that through touch, you're able to find a weak point with them, and you're able
Hmm.
to exploit that weak point. Whereas for me, I flipped it around the other way. So I'm not inherent, I'm not naturally like a fighting person. So like I was getting to the point where I maybe could have thought, I could try and do a proper cage fight here. But if you were sparring with me and I accidentally punched you in the nose, I said sorry and stopped. I'm just not like that. So I kind of
Uh,
took the information that I had and I leant more into the, here, if someone's weak here, I can help strengthen that. I can help, build a bridge here to actually help them not feel something hurting from not having, a good level of stability there. So that's kind of the way I started to think about things. Is like, oh, if I understand how to break things, I must need to know how to fix them as well. And I just went
mhm.
fully into the, oh, if I understand how all this stuff works, I can help a lot of people with that. So that was the thing that really interested.
Kind of going into this, so you're from Northern Ireland, you've been around, you built this community where people are coming to your workshops, and of course you do online coaching.
Mhm.
But can you tell me like how did simplistic mobility method come about? And why that name? Is it just because it's simple mobility and it's a method, or like
Well,
tell me like what's the
it's
origin?
Yeah, it's designed to appear simple, but nothing about it is simple because the amount of information that I had to learn. So that's why it's simplistic. It's like I have deliberately just made it like, hey, do you want the stuff that works? And all you need to do is follow this list and do it. That's all you have to do. You don't need to know any fancy words or any terminology or anything. This is the thing you need. So like if I could go back in time 10 years and just grab myself by the scruff of the neck and slap myself around the head and say, do this and nothing else until you can do it really well, that's essentially what the simplistic mobility method is. So we call it SMM, just the quick abbreviation of it.
Mm.
But it's like kind of my life's work of like a blueprint of the body. So I kind of came at it at the approach of, because like your body has over 600 muscles in it. And when you first start hurting something, you start learning the names of a couple of muscles and you start, demonizing them. It's like, oh, all of my problems are because of my psoas. And it's like, hang on, no, you suck at lunges. It's nothing to do with your psoas. You can't do lunges. Lunges are a warm up exercise and you're trying to deadlift. What are you doing?
Uh,
So there's so many, and that's me talking to my past self. Like, there's so much stuff I used to do that was so out of my realm of what I should have been doing because of the other things I now know I struggled with back then. So the simplistic mobility method is that kind of like, I was like, right, what is an actual foundation? What are the basics? Because anytime I ever ask someone, what are the basics? They just went squat, bench, deadlift. That's your
yeah,
basics. And it's like,
that's
no, hang on. No, there needs to be something before that, surely. You don't just walk in and start dead. Like, go on, 80-year-old Martha. Let's go. We're deadlifting today. We've got to see here. Can Martha balance? Does Martha's,
mhm,
knees and hips move like knees and hips? Because the biggest thing that caused my back injuries was my hips being so immobile, and especially my right one. It was a lot worse than my left one. My hips did not move like hips, they moved like elbows. So anytime I tried to squat and do any kind of rotational movement, the rotation just wasn't there. So I was just having to lean all my weight into my other side, and then coincidentally, my spine basically exploded on the left hand side because everything was shifting away from my right hip over to the left side. And spines don't like that very much. Bilateral movements, if you have two different hips that are moving completely differently,
mhm,
your spine takes the brunt of that eventually. And the worst thing is that you get away with it for so long before something actually happens. Your body tries to adapt the best it can. And I always say, like, your body's both the smartest thing but also the dumbest thing that you have. So it tries to help you out, but sometimes it makes some really silly decisions. And you end up having like a recurring injury. And then the more that goes on, the issue is that some people will just rest and then, oh, the pain's away, and they just go back into the way they were trained before. Whereas you really should be like, right, okay, why did that happen? What have I missed? And that's kind of why I went with the simplistic mobility method.
mhm,
Was right, I'm going to test all the functions of all the joints to make sure all the joints are being moved like joints. And like a nice one I always like to say to people is like, when is the last time that you fully turned your head as far as it can go left, as far as it can go right, as far as it can go up, and as far as it can go down, and as far as it can go side to side? Like, when's the last time you could tell me you definitely did that? You know?
I guess my question for you is, since I do stretch therapy, fascia stretch therapy, do you know much about fascia, or I guess have you ever covered about fascia and the importance of the role that it plays in the body? Have you ever looked into that or heard about it?
Yeah, I looked into fascia. There was a lot of treatments and stuff I was looking into, like hands-on therapy and stuff. It was never something that, because my big thing was always like I wanted to teach people how to move better.
Mm-hmm.
Um, through and learn how to use movement to help relax things and stuff. Like in terms of fascia, you're not just bones or just fascia or just muscle. You are a combination of all of those things. So it's important to always be thinking that you're always addressing all of those things, you know. And even if there is something like in terms of like, you know, back injuries and stuff like that, it's like, yeah, but there's so much stuff around the spine and around the discs that you can still strengthen and teach how to move better, that, you know, your body is just this incredibly, you know, it's just such a resourceful thing that there's so much stuff going on inside that everything is a part of it. So yeah, you can't really ever break it down to one kind of thing, I find.
Hmm.
So yeah, but the fascia stuff is really interesting. You know, like it's like this weird spider web type stuff inside you, and it's just all sticky and stuff. And it's like, well, what is that there for? And you know, like you kind of wonder, like, well, how many signals does that thing get? You know, what does your brain tell it to do? You know, it is so cool, and how everything's kind of intertwined and stuff. So yes, sure, tell me a bit about how you kind of think about it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think for fascia, I mean, holds the muscle skeletal system together, it's a sensory thing, like you're mentioning. Nerve endings from the top of your head all the way to the bottom of your feet, your phalanges. Fascia is what kind of gives that propulsion to movement. I kind
Mm-hmm.
of see it like a wetsuit. You know, if one side is really tight, typically it's not where that area is the tightest. It might be from the hip. It might be from like I
Mm-hmm.
said, everything is interconnected, just like the kinetic
Yeah.
chain, from the ground
Yeah, I
up.
always like to
And
say
so,
your body's like a big conveyor belt. So if you tug on one bit of a conveyor belt, the other bits are going to move too. So I always like to think of
yeah,
it like that. So yeah, that's
it's always
people
a
referred
push and
pain is such a
pull.
tricky thing.
Yeah. So that's kind of what I do. I mean, with the
Oh, your
fascia
sound
stretch
gone?
there. Oh, can you
Can't
hear me
hear you.
now?
Oh, there we
Uh-huh.
go.
Okay.
Yeah, I can hear
That's how I kind of when I'm treating people manual work with fascia stretch therapy, just looking at the fascia lines that Tom Myers with anatomy trains.
you. Hmm.
That's typically the founding of the nets that we look at. It's I always am a proponent of like I said, the kinetic chain starting from the ground up. And so I
Yeah.
love what you're doing because you're always talking about ankle mobility, what's going on with your knee, your hips, your back, everything is connected. And I love that's why I kind of gravitated towards you because a lot of the things that you were sharing on, social has helped me to see like, oh wow, I think I could improve in this area. I think I
Mm.
could look at it more globally than just rather of a focused local area. And so, I'm glad that, you're doing this type of work because it's mobility is one of those key things people are probably missing out on, whether if you're
Hmm.
a desk worker, construction worker, you're a professional athlete, you're just a person who just wants to get up and do things, but they're limited. And so for you, what are some things, I guess, most people who are coming to, I guess, enroll into your simplest, the SMM, what are they
Hmm.
typically looking for? Are they looking for more relief, more like, better? Who are the typical people, I should say?
Well, that's the funniest thing is like, you know, you should have avatars and stuff like, well, who's your target audience? But literally, we do go after everybody. And SMM is designed to move your body like a body. So the tailoring within SMM is the parts that you find hard. So when you first start the program, there's 10 tests to do, and there's 15 exercises that you want to master. And we give regressions and different moderations or, you know, modifications for them and all.
Mm-hmm.
So the tailoring within that is like which parts do you struggle with. So I always talk about the kind of difference you can see with people. So someone that's very inflexible, like my background, I call them like a fridge brick. They're like a brick, or they're like a fridge that's made out of bricks. There's no bend in them whatsoever. And then you've also got that flip side of it of a bendy Wendy. So it's like my business partner Jenny. She's hypermobile,
You're
and so
flung
you
and
can be
sexable.
yeah, yeah. So you can be too flexible, or
Uh,
you can just be too strong and stiff and rigid and stuff, you know.
uh-huh.
And you do want to have. So my idea with the Simplistic Mobility Method was to give people a baseline of like, look, you need to have this before you go either way of the other. If you've got that down first, then sure, yeah, go and learn how to do the splits and back bends afterwards, or yeah, go and deadlift 500 kilos after. But you must have this stuff down first because that means your body's moving like a body, and if you let your body move like a body, it allows you to do the fun stuff. Problem with us
Mm,
is we only just want to do the fun stuff. So
yeah.
unless you actually have a pain, you're not very likely to do stuff. So a lot of the people who would sign up to our program like generally have some form of a recurring injury, or they just feel sore all the time, and they just feel like they're falling apart basically. So they want some kind of like reset of like what do I need to do here, and that for me was like the stuff that I learned over a year period with my intense pain. it's like if I had known that stuff then when it first happened, I wouldn't have to go through that, you know. And that's what I want to be able to give to other people. It's like even if you're say totally fine now, say in 5 years' time you happen to something happens and you end up injuring your back, you're kind of like, oh, I know exactly what I need to focus on here and I'll be okay. Rather than
Mm-hmm.
going, my back's injured, I have to stop everything I love now and not do anything and take painkillers for the rest of my life, you know? And you know, especially when you're in pain, you catastrophize everything. You don't really want to learn and you don't want to move that much. Whereas if you pre-understand, it's like, no, no, yes, you are going to go through a period of pain, but if you move right and you get the muscles working in the way they're supposed to by respecting how the joints are supposed to move, you can overcome a lot of the signals that your brain is essentially giving you. Now, yes, obviously, if you've literally just fallen over a rock and felt it in your back, it's like, yeah, go to hospital and get seen to. But if you're talking like you've had a bad back and it's been bad for a while, it gets slightly better, gets worse again, gets slightly better, gets worse again, maybe you get a couple of months of feeling totally okay, and then bam, all of a sudden it's back again. If you're identifying yourself as someone like I've got a weak back, then you know there's stuff that you need to do, and a lot of it's going to come down to, especially with backs, is like the hips, making sure the hips move properly, you know, and the big issue with a lot of pain that I'm sure you know as yourself as well is like you can be getting pain somewhere and it's totally coming from something else. And what someone's going to do is gravitate towards the sore bit. Well, I know I want an exercise for this bit here that's sore. And it's like, no, 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 your hips are shocking. You need to fix them before that's going to feel in any way safe or stable. You've got to fix your hips first, you know? Whereas a lot of people just want like a lower back stretch or lower back massage, and it's like, no, no, you've a lot of work here to do before your back's going to feel better at all. For so back in my day, YouTube wasn't as good as it is now. So like a lot of the stuff I had to do through exploring and trying to figure stuff out myself. So like I did have the run of the martial arts gym to myself pretty much. So like during the day, the place was empty, so I was able to just hang in there, and I would have worked with different movements and stuff. My biggest struggle was that my right hip just did not move. It just didn't, you know, and I would look up, you know, what do I need to do here to make my glutes feel better and stuff like that. And like one of the exercises you would see would be like the pigeon stretch. It's like I could not get into that. There was no mission that I was going to be able to get into that position whatsoever. The second I tried, my knee felt like it was going to pop off, you know. And so I needed to figure out ways to like kind of regress things and make things easier. And that's where like everyone now is in the world now has heard of the 1990 position. That's kind of where I started to come across that stuff. And started like I was looking a bit at the FRC stuff and Dr. Angio Spina's work, if that's how I'd say it properly. Apologies if not. Started looking at that, and they were very joint focused and stuff. And I started to kind of notice like it was almost too individually joint focused. Like they were too caught up in just the motions of the joint. There wasn't as many like full body movements in it. So I kind of took this combination of like Pilates principles and yoga and FRC and kind of put it all together of like, right, okay, I need to make sure the joints can move properly. And now I need to integrate that into actual exercises, you know, because you can be doing all the unilateral exercises, you know, one side at a time as much as you want and corrective exercises. But if your hip or your shoulder literally isn't moving the way it should do, you're going to be compensating and then you're going to keep running into issues. So I kind of came at it this way of this like lengthen then strengthen idea of like, right, let's address the joint movement first. And then it's got to be full body movements, full body integrated stuff where your entire body has to work together at the same time. And we also want to test left and right. So we don't want our balance, you know, you're always going to have like a stronger arm and, you know, better balance slightly on one leg compared to the other. But if that gap is quite significant, you can see you can run into a lot of problems, you know, and especially when it comes to like barbell work. You know, I don't want to take a client on to teach them how to lift weights and stuff like that. If they don't address these things when I first start working with them, I know they've got 6 months to a year before they start hurting all the time or they injure a knee or something. So it's like, I just really fell in love with that. Now, let's make the body move like a body and then the person can do whatever they want to do. That's kind of where constantly showing up for maybe 8 years now, I think. Like always being helpful and always trying to give light bulb moments to people and making sure that people are able to learn something easily from you is so important and that you're not like remember who you're trying to talk to. You're not trying to impress the people that you work with or you know other people that do the same things as you. You're trying to talk to real life people. So making sure your message works in that way is probably the best things work for us. Yeah, so just search Tom Morrison on Google or on any platform. I'll pop up probably quite near the top. Yeah, so we've quite a large following. We're on TikTok, we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, we're on Blue Sky, we're on everything pretty much. So yeah, YouTube's probably our most useful resource. So if you have an owie anywhere, if you search Tom Morrison and wherever that owie is, something will probably come up. So if you search Tom Morrison elbow, you'll get something. Search Tom Morrison knee, you'll get something. And yeah, just get yourself moving and trying to take on board as much stuff as possible. And if you feel like you need to have a good once over of your entire body and see where things are at, then the Simplistic Mobility Method, if you only ever get one thing from me, ever, that will be the thing to go for. Awesome. Thanks so much for having me. Hello? Yep, there it's back again. No problem. That's great. Okay. Thanks so much. See you around. Bye.